Does the fluctuation in interest rates and the looming thought of a recession get you tied up in knots? Are you feeling overwhelmed that we will have a housing crisis? That's probably not warranted. There's a listener question from Edward in Jefferson. It says, the word recession is very scary to us, and I don't blame you, Edward. The word recession is scary to me as well. We bought our first home a few years after the crash in 2008, and we are worried that we're in for a housing crisis. Is there anything we can do to shield ourselves? And the answer is you need to pay very, very, very close attention to supply and demand. It is almost impossible for supply to be lower than demand and for a recession, if we have one, and I'm not saying that we will because I'm not an economist, I don't know, I think we might. But the only way real estate prices go down is if we have more supply than we have demand, because then sellers have to negotiate more with buyers. Now let's talk about this for just a second. And Edward, here are the numbers that I would use to determine whether or not we were going to have a softening or a decreasing in sales prices. And I would look at the months of inventory. For those of you who listen to the show regularly, you hear me talk about the number of months worth of inventory in a particular market in our Neighborhood Spotlight segment, coming up in the next segment. But let me give you the numbers so you know how to perceive it. If you have less than 4 months worth of inventory, I say it is a seller's market. Now, what that means is, Edward, if you have, let's say you had 12 homes sold in a neighborhood in the last year, and you currently had 2 homes on the market. Well, if you take the 12 homes sold and divide it by the 12 months in the last year, you know that there was an average of 1 home that sold per month. If you have 2 homes that are currently active and available, it means there is 2 months worth of inventory, which means both of those homes should be sold within a 60-day period. So if that number is less than 4 months, then I say it is a seller's market, and a seller has an advantage. So even if it was taking 90 days on average to sell a home in those neighborhoods, it would still be a seller's market, and prices would still be maybe more slowly, but they would still be continuing to rise. If you have 4 to 5 months worth of inventory, I say that is a balanced market. That is when you will really see prices level off. They might just go up 2 or 3% per year, but they will level off because neither a seller nor a buyer has an advantage. Now, a seller with an amazingly good property that is just like an A and everybody loves it, it looks like it was built in 2025, like a house of the future, that one might be worth more money. But your average home out there, neither the seller nor the buyer is going to have a specific advantage when it comes to negotiations. Here's where we get into the problem, and that is when months of inventory climb past 5. So when you have 6 months worth of inventory, or 7 months worth of inventory, or 8 or 9 or 10 months worth of inventory, or as I remember looking up inventory in the $1 million range back in 2011, and there were literally 5 years worth of inventory. I could not believe it. It was like 48 months worth of inventory. I almost fell out of my chair when I was doing the research. But if you have more than 5 months worth of inventory, it is a buyer's market, which means the buyers rule the roost. The buyers control the negotiations in terms of home sales. And when that starts to happen, it might be possible that you would see prices slide back ever so slightly. Edward, to cap off this discussion, it is really a matter of not enough homes being built. If you listen to the show regularly, this is not the first time you've heard me say this, but we are probably 4 or 5 million housing units behind where we need to be. Traditionally, there's between 1 million and 1.5 million housing units created in the United States. Starting in 2008, everything changed. We probably averaged 400,000 or 500,000 new housing units per year from 2008 to 2012, and we still haven't caught up to the units we didn't build in 2008 to 2012, and we certainly haven't kept up with the building that needed to take place each and every year thereafter. So it is simply at this point, Edward, a matter of supply and demand. And so the only way we're going to get to a point where we start getting a supply and demand imbalance is if new construction skyrockets and the number of housing units in the U.S. climbs quickly.